One thing leads to another. Cause and effect. The American Revolution. Presented by Dennis Wardley, Alicia Scott, Jason Wallace, Leslie Genchi, and Yodi Pacheco. Cause and effect is knowing what happened and why it happened. Sometimes effects can turn out to be causes, and causes can be the effects.
Okay. The American Revolution was war that was fought between the Great Britain and American colonies from 1776 to 1781. In the end, the colonies won, and that's why we live in the United States of America, and we are not Britain cause citizens.
But before we get to that, we have to look at why the colonists wanted to fight against England in the first place. We are going to look at the causes of the American Revolution and their effects.
The French and Indian War was from 1754 to 1763. That was a long time to fight. The British and the French went to the war because the French didn't want the British to trade with the Indians along the Ohio River Valley. Some of the Indian nations were allies. That means friends or helpers with the British, and some were allies with the French. In the end, the British won. Some of the American Indians who lived in the Ohio River Valley wanted the British to leave. They had a war against them called Pontiac's Rebellion. The British didn't want to fight with the Indians, so they made the Proclamation of 1763, which said that colonies could not make homes west of the Appalachian Mountains. Many colonies were upset by the Proclamation of 1763 because they wanted to live in the Ohio River Valley. This was one of a lot of things the colonies did not like about the British rules.
Next thing, the British tax was stamped. This was called the Stamp Act. This act taxed anything printed on paper. The colonies were not happy with this tax either. They said they shouldn't be taxed because they don't have a representative to speak for them in Britain. Or no taxation without representation is what they said. In 1766, the British agreed to repeal the Stamp Act. Repeal means to cancel a law.
Very good.
The British still needed to raise money to and then make the township acts. This meant that colonists still had to pay tax in things like tea, grass, and paper that used the British sent soldiers to protect officials in Boston. More about that later.
Instead of paying the tax,
the colonists began
to boycott
to boycott
British
British
goods.
goods.
This
This
means
means
they
they
didn't
didn't
use it.
use it.
Instead,
This
they
they started
making
making
their
their
own
own
things.
things.
This made
This made a British lose money, so the king had to cancel
that
the
act.
act too. The people who live in the Boston
Didn't
didn't like
the British soldiers
the British soldiers
being there.
being there.
Sometimes
Sometimes
they fought with the soldiers.
they fight with the soldiers.
On March 5th,
On March 5th,
1770,
1770,
a fight happened
a fight happened
between British
between British,
and a crowd of protesters.
a crowd of protesters. Protesters are people who speak out
About
about
something.
something.
It got ugly,
It got ugly.
and one of the British soldiers
One of the British soldiers
fired a gun.
fired a gun.
5 colonists were killed.
5 colonists was killed.
That was called the Boston Massacre.
It's called the Boston Massacre.
A massacre is
Uh,
massacre,
A massacre is
killing of a lot of people.
a killing of a lot of people.
The soldiers were put on trial
The soldiers were put on trial.
and did not go to jail for long.
Did not go to jail at all.
But because
But because
someone wanted all the colonies
someone wanted all the colonists
to know what was happening
to know what's happening
in Boston
in Boston
and around the other colonies,
and around other colonies,
they set up
they set up
committees
committees
of correspondence.
of correspondence.
They sent letters to each other.
They sent letters to each other.
The
British
were
were still taxing the colonies. They passed the Tea Act in 1773.
The colonists
The colonists
still
still didn't want
to
to
pay
pay taxes, even
though
now
the
the
tea
tea
was
was
cheap.
cheap.
They
They left to the tea on the
boats.
boats.
Very good. The British government
The British government wouldn't let the tea go back to Britain. So the tea just sat in the Boston Harbor. One night, December 1673, the Sons
of Liberty
got on the boat and threw the tea into the water. This made the British mad. We gotta do this.
Pretty soon, the British and the colonists were ready to fight. Some people meant to talk with King George, but that is another set of events. That is the next podcast about the causes and effects of the American Revolution.